in community work such as removal of illiteracy, construction and repair of roads, disinfection of wells and ponds, and creating social awareness in adopted villages. NSS helps the students to grow individually and also as a group. It makes the students confident, develop leadership skills, and gain knowledge about different people from different walks of life. Students also learn other skills that help them lead a better life in various situations. The motto of NSS, not me, but you, reflects the essence of democratic living and upholds the need for selfless services. NSS helps the students' development and appreciation to others' person's point of view and also show consideration towards others' living beings. Every year on 24th September, National Service Scheme Day is celebrated across the country. The Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports conducts and manages the National Service Scheme, which is a public service. A door to success is not that easy. The two things to carry is work hard and determination. With this, now I would like to request our principal sir to address the gathering with their inspiring and sublime words.
So, good morning, all of you. First of all, I welcome Advocate Praveen Kumar Jain ji, who is our guest speaker on this NSS program, Project Gyan Sagar. The topic is Know Your Fundamental Rights. So, I am happy that on Sunday I can see many of my students and the volunteers on this NSS Gyan Sagar program. Thank you, Dr. Megha, for motivating, for planning such a topic that is Know Your Fundamental Rights. I just want to add here that in past, we have also organized a number of programs through DALSA, Delhi State Legal Services Authorities. And I also attended, it was for our non-collegiate students, the girls students. So, Jain Sahab, when I attended those programs where expert like you and some judicial officers, it was in the offline mode. There were so many things even we were not aware, right? So I remember we did add-on course on Motor Vehicle Act, then this gender sensitization, harassment, dowry, and so many things which pertains to a common person. So having a talk on such a topic, know your fundamental right, it is really very important for the youth in many ways. बाकी तो जैन साहब बात करेंगे हम सबसे, लेकिन आजकल जो फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच है, अब उसके माने बड़े अलग अलग तरह के माने हैं. व्हेन यू सिट इन फ्रंट ऑफ योर टीवी, सो व्हाटएवर इज कन्वीनियंट टू मी, आई टेक इन दैट वे. And again, there is one thing, different narrative. If we talk about nationalism, we talk about patriotism. तो यूथ इन सब चीज़ों को किस पर्सपेक्टिव में ले जब हम राइट्स की बात करते हैं, बिकॉज बीइंग ए टीचर वी ऑल्सो गाइड अवर स्टूडेंट्स अबाउट देयर ड्यूटीज ऑल्सो. एंड व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट ड्यूटीज, दिस इज सबसे पहले एक हार्मनी की बात, सोशल हार्मनी कैसे हो, सब चीज़ें बहुत बाद में होंगी. इफ आई एम ए गुड ह्यूमन बीइंग, I care for my neighbor, I care for my fellow citizens, जो कि बहुत ज़रूरी है. एंड सेकेंडली, जो हम ड्यूटी डे टू डे हमारी ड्यूटीज़ है, जैसे छोटा सा एग्जांपल है कि हम एनवायरनमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं. आज सिंगल जो प्लास्टिक यूज़ पे बात हो रही है, तो आज का हमारे यूथ इन सब से अवेयर हो कि इसके क्या साइड इफ़ेक्ट्स होंगे. अभी कुछ दिनों बात हो रही थी कि भाई दिल्ली में बहुत गर्मी पड़ रही है. So then there was a program in offline mode. I shared that in late 90, अराउंड 98-99 इन राजधानी कॉलेज हमारा एक भी एयर कंडीशन नहीं था, हार्डली देयर वाज नो एयर कंडीशन। और 95 तक तो कॉलेजेस में नंबर ऑफ फोर व्हीलर्स। नाउ इन राजधानी कॉलेज इटसेल्फ हमारे यहाँ वी हैव इन हंड्रेड्स, और पार्किंग की जगह नहीं है, तो क्या होगा इस एनवायरनमेंट का? सो वी हैव टू बी अवेयर, वी हैव टू अवेयर आवर सेल्फ, आवर यूथ, जिनके लिए हम क्या छोड़ के जा रहे हैं आने वाली पीढ़ी के लिए। So whenever we talk about rights, I just wanted to share that we should be aware of our duties also. So Jain sir, thank you so much. I know advocate like you who are practicing in Supreme Court, High Court, you're so busy. Sparing out time on Sunday, it's not that easy. So from my Rajdhani College family, my heartiest welcome. And thank you, Dr. Megha, for having this program. And congratulations to all the volunteers for having this talk in the online mode. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much,
much
sir.
for your kind words.
Okay, so now I would like to introduce our chief guest speaker, Mr. Praveen Kumar Jain, sir. He is an advocate at Supreme Court of India, panel counsel of MMTC
आस्था
Limited, and
किसी बच्चे का हेलो, शायद
Yes, sir.
डबल
Yes, sir.
डिवाइस ऑन की हुई है किसी ने, दैट्स व्हाई देयर इज
Oh, sir, I'll check. Okay.
Megha, I am in the principal's office. I am doing it from the college. आज कॉलेज में जैसा हमारे यहाँ नॉन कॉलेजिएट की क्लासेस होती हैं और इग्नू की क्लासेस होती हैं।
जी सर,
तो इट इज रियली लुकिंग गुड। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू सर।
Okay, so may I introduce the guest speaker of our today's program, Mr. Praveen Kumar Jain, sir. He is an advocate at Supreme Court of India, panel counsel for MMTC Limited and National Internet Exchange of India. He was an ex-senior panel counsel for UOI. Is it echoing?
If you join from two devices, Astha, I would suggest you just join from one device. Log out from the other device. Yes, sir.
Now it's clear?
Yes. Now it's clear. Please.
Okay. Now, okay. Again, I'll introduce sir. He's an advocate at Supreme Court of India, panel counsel for MMTC Limited and National Internet Exchange of India. He is an ex-senior panel counsel for UOI and SDMC. He is also an alumnus of Campus Law Center, University of Delhi. Got first-hand training from Honorable Mr. Justice R.C. Lahoti, former Chief Justice of India. He had authored and critical articles which have been published by various magazines and research journals of India, a few. Assisted an associate professor of Campus Law Center, DU, in writing a book titled Copyright and Related Rights to the National and International Perspectives, which have been published by Macmillan India Limited. Okay, so the question and answer round will be held after the session, so audience can put their question in the chat box, and you will be provided a feedback form in the end. So kindly give your valuable feedback and get the certificate. Now, everyone has to maintain decorum during the session. Now, I would like to invite our chief guest, Mr. Praveen Kumar sir, to address the gathering on the topic, Know Your Fundamental Rights.
Thank you, Astha ji, for giving my repeated introduction to the audience. So by that time, they all mugged up my profile. Honorable Principal Sir, respected professors, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. Let me first congratulate NSS for coming up with this Gyan Sagar project. This is really good initiative to make the youth aware of their rights and duties as well. In India, every person is supposed to know the laws. You cannot say that I did not know that if I have borrowed the money, I have to return it, or if I have entered into a contract with someone, that I have to honor it, or I did not know that I cannot kill a person or I cannot cheat a person, so I should be immune from the sentence. You cannot say so. That's why every person is supposed to know the law. It's better that we spread the awareness among the youth about the laws of this country. Though there are thousands of laws, but the basic one, as the topic of today is know your fundamental rights. Similarly, there are some fundamental duties also, directives of the state policies also. The principal sir has asked about certain fundamental duties of the citizens, but this is a very wide topic, so may not be possible to go for the fundamental duties or like statutory duties today. For that, we may have another session. But as far as today we are concerned with know your fundamental rights, what intrigued me the most was the tagline attached by NSS, that is, if you don't understand your rights, you have no rights. Meaning thereby, just like in commerce, in the sale industry, they say the goods in stock will never be sold. जो दिखता है सो बिकता है. But that may not be perfectly correct in present scenario. You may not understand your rights. You may not even know your rights. Still, you have your rights. So let me correct on this aspect with reference to certain provisions of law. Particularly, suppose that you have entered into a contract and you do not know what your rights are. Contract to purchase a property. You have certain rights, but still those rights are there. They would be there. So the prerequisite is not that you must know them or you must understand them. They would always be there. They are written in the statutes, rules, regulations, as well as in our constitution. Then I would like to just to sidetrack from this topic which I have just prepared. There are certain persons, or even they are not persons, animals, plants, they also have rights. They can never know about their rights. They can never enforce their rights. Still, their rights are enforced, protected. In fact, first of all, they are provided. Just like a baby in womb, stillborn baby, it is also having certain rights. Let me just share a PDF that will clarify on this aspect, that how many rights a person may have who is still yet to get birth. Though they are not directly in that sense, but still, like in Code of Criminal Procedure, 1973, there is right like postponement of execution. Postponements of execution, postponement of capital sentence on pregnant woman. If a woman sentenced to death is found to be pregnant, the High Court shall commute the sentence to imprisonment for life. Meaning thereby that a person who is about to be born, his right to get birth cannot be curtailed. Then another example would be that there are certain rights provided to the stillborn child under different laws, like Hindu Succession Act. This is the Hindu Succession Act 1956, which regulates the inheritance of the property. Its section 20 says, a child who was in the womb at the time of the death of an intestate means a person who has not written his will and who is subsequently born alive shall have the same right to inherit to the intestate as if he or she had been born before the death of the intestate. And the inheritance shall be deemed to vest in such a case with effect from the date of the death of the intestate. Here what we mean is that a child who is in a womb, suppose his father dies before his birth and he gets birth subsequent to his death, still he would have the right in the property left by his father. So meaning thereby The child did not know he has this right, but this right has been recognized by the law, and that would be enforced by the law, protected by the law. Similarly, there are certain other rights. I'm just deviating from the main topic. I'm coming to this other aspect, that the Indian Penal Code. It also protects the life of unborn baby. It says causing miscarriage. Whoever voluntarily causes a woman with child to miscarry shall, if such miscarriage be not caused in good faith for the purpose of saving the life of the woman, be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 3 years, or with fine, or with both. And if the woman be quick with child, shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 7 years. So here we see that even a person cannot cause the miscarriage of a woman, meaning thereby the right to live or right to get the birth of a stillborn child has still been recognized by the law. Here on 15th of July, a very interesting came up before the High Court of Delhi, in which a lady, she said that because of her partner, she was unmarried. She said that because of, this is the case title, Miss X versus the Principal Secretary, Health and Family Welfare Department, Government of NCT of Delhi, before High Court of Delhi, and it was heard by the Chief Justice, Justice Subramaniam Prasad, on 15th of July, just 2 days back. What happened in this case? That lady said that since my some kind of living partner has dissed me at this moment, and I cannot carry the child, hence I should be allowed to terminate my fetus pregnancy. That this pregnancy was coming up to the month of 24. So there are certain regulations regarding this termination of the pregnancy. So apart from the main reason for which the High Court did not allow the lady to terminate its pregnancy, that was that an unmarried woman is not allowed to terminate the pregnancy after the fetus comes to 20 weeks gestation period. The another interesting thing which came orally during the argument was, I would like to read it from the bar and bench, which says that unmarried woman pregnant from, sorry, I'm not shared. I will just share another very interesting exchange of words which took place in the High Court of Delhi at that time. And that was, I hope it can be seen now. Unmarried woman pregnant from consensual sex cannot terminate pregnancy older than 20 weeks, Delhi High Court. So what was the exchange? Exchange in sense that an unborn child cannot be stopped from getting birth. So here the bench had suggested that the child, while hearing the same petition yesterday, the judges had remarked that termination of pregnancy at this stage will virtually amount to killing the child. So the child which has yet to get birth has got the right to life in view of the honorable judges. The bench had suggested that the child can be given for adoption. Why are you killing the child? There is a big queue for child adoption, the Chief Justice had said. It further said that it is not forcing the woman to raise the child, and everything will be looked after by the government or hospital. So when we are talking about the fundamental rights, the beauty of fundamental rights is that these are enforceable against the state only. Here, by the meaning of state, which is provided in Article 12 of the Constitution of India, we mean the Parliament, the central government, and the state governments, municipal bodies, just like MCD, DDA, all these are state. So even the Chief Justice said, I am willing to pay. So apart from that, that he was willing to pay, what here I meant is that a child who is yet to get birth, who does not know its rights, who does not understand the rights, still has the right which are provided by the government, which are protected by the courts. Now, let me come to the main topic. Before coming to the meaning of rights, types of rights, let me just throw a question, show you one slide. They say a picture is worth thousands of words. Here you see a picture. What do you see here? Here, some persons are chained. They have been enslaved. They cannot select what they want to work, when they want to work, and how much money should be paid to them. Maybe they are not paid anything except some roti kapda makan, may not be makan even. And another picture is where the children are enjoying their life. There is another picture where you can see the child is working, a minor is working or forced to work. No child would like to work. And another child is studying happily, that too before a laptop. So what does it show? This picture shows that we are here without rights. I'm not talking about rights of this person who is having these slaves. I'm talking about these persons who are not having any kind of rights, not even the human rights, natural rights, so and so. And here these students have got right to education. This child is forced to work, and here this child is getting the right to get education. So here what I'm emphasizing upon is that without right, there is no life. A life without right means nothing. That's why rights have been provided to us since ages, particularly in India, if not in other countries. But before that, I would like to show you about the meaning of rights. Though a fixed meaning has not been given anywhere in any statute, hence we'll go by the definitions given by the jurists and philosophers and definitions and observations made by the courts. Then the natural question arises is, what are the types of rights or kinds of rights? Like natural rights, cultural rights, human rights, then legal rights. I have divided these legal rights into 4 kinds of rights. One is contextual rights, statutory rights, constitutional rights, fundamental rights. Then we may go on to learn who can grant or take away the rights. Can rights be relinquished? Can you waive off your rights? Then who can enforce rights? It is you who will enforce the rights, or your neighbor, or your parents, or other society members, or the government. Then can someone else seek protection of your rights? Further, how to enforce your rights? And this is the most important aspect of today's discussion. Until unless we know how to enforce our rights, all these discussions are meaningless. So as far as the meaning of rights goes, there are some philosophical discussions, some definitions given by the jurists. So here the Latin term for right is rectus, which means correct. It means essential claims recognized by the civilized society and are enforced by the state. Until unless any claim which is recognized by the society is not enforced by the state, then it has no meaning at all. It would be a paper claim, paper right. Then another definition given by John Chimman Gray is right is a correlative to duty. It's very important to understand this aspect, because our honorable principal also asked me to talk about these duties. Like before you exercise your rights, you also have certain duties. And this is where this definition comes into the picture. Right is a correlative to duty. Where there is no duty, there can be no right. But the converse is not necessarily true. There may be duties without rights. So let me explain this first. Then only you can enforce your rights against the state or against other persons. Right is correlative duty, meaning thereby, suppose I have a right today, but there is no person under duty to protect that right, then that right would have no meaning. Here I would explain this situation in 2 ways. One is that contextual right, for example. I purchase a property, then I have been granted a right by the Transfer of Property Act to enjoy its possession. and suppose some other person is encroaching upon my possession, if there is no duty on other fellow citizens to honor my right to enjoy the possession over that purchased property, then that right would be meaningless. Today I buy the property, next day someone else may enter into that property and start residing there or start working there. That's why when I purchase a property, then it's a right in rem. Right in rem means a right against the whole world. Though it is subject to certain conditions, like in emergencies, this right can be suspended, or in fact, this right is subject to the amendment by the parliament itself. But otherwise, in normal situations, you have the absolute right to enjoy your property, or you have purchased a car, or you have purchased your clothes, nobody else can take them away. And as far as the fundamental rights go, like you have a right to education, primary education, elementary education. But there is nobody under a duty to provide you that right. You cannot go to your neighbor, or you have a right to shelter, or you have a right to life. But your neighbor is not under a duty to provide you any kind of protection. There is nobody who you can ask that you have to provide me food or water. This is a fundamental right which is enforceable against the state only. As the honorable principal talked about that heat, like we are having ACs, we are having so many vehicles which are generating so much heat. The heat waves throughout the summer period, and in fact, somewhere are the flash floods or some the kinds of natural calamities are coming every day. So what are our duties? So here the next part comes into the picture. But the converse is not necessarily true. There may be duties without rights. So you may not have a right, but you may have a duty, because you may have the duty just to ensure that every other person has that right. For example, if you pollute the environment by burning the plastic, this is going to harm the life of other persons. That's why you are under a duty to protect the environment. Similarly, as I was talking about the rights of a child, there are rights of animals. Wildlife Protection Act is there. Wildlife Protection Act protects the life of those animals whose life is going to be extinct, which are endangered species. Similarly, there are certain plants which cannot be destroyed by you, which have been enlisted in that act. So those are our duties, though other persons may not have corresponding rights to that. Hence this definition. Then there are certain Supreme Court and High Court judgments. One of them is Rajendra Sardar Maloji Narsingh Rao versus Shankar Saran, which says that a right is an interest. Now another dimension has been given. A right is an interest which is recognized and protected by law. Until and unless this is recognized and protected by law, it cannot be left to the mercy of other person or left to the discretion of the other persons. You may have certain moral rights or like societal rights for which you may not have the protection of the law. So here we are talking about a right which has the protection, recognition and protection by the law. As it is recognized by law, a man is entitled to have it. As it can be protected by law, the possessor can enforce it by an appropriate action in a court. We'll come to this aspect, that which kinds of right you have to approach the Supreme Court, for the protection of which kinds of right you can approach the High Court even, or there are certain rights like statutory rights, contextual rights, which can be protected only by the civil courts or the criminal courts. You cannot go to the High Court or Supreme Court directly to enforce them. Then immunity is one aspect of right and entitles the possessor to see that no one interferes with it. Like you have some immunities, so no one can interfere with those immunities. So this is also another facet of right. Some kinds of immunities and some kinds of privileges also. It also furnishes him with a complete answer to any action intended to interfere with that right. So you have got certain immunities, certain privileges, certain interests, which are recognized and protected by law. So this is the definition given by the Allahabad High Court. Then there is another judgment that is of State of Rajasthan versus Union of India. The Supreme Court stated legal right is in the strict sense, are correlatives of legal duties. So you cannot enforce your legal rights against certain moral duties. For example, you have a right to life, but you do not have that right against the person. Suppose you have fallen into this some gorge, or you have fallen into some river, and you do not know how to swim. Then that you cannot say that that person who knows how to swim and he was standing alongside the river bank was under a duty to protect your life by jumping into the water and for taking you out. You cannot say so. You may not have bread today to feed your children, but you cannot say that the other person in my neighborhood is having so much fortune, so why is not helping me? You have this right against the state, but not against your neighbor. A letter to God. I think the
Please
God is
mute
angry with me.
yourself.
Then, curtailing this topic, that what is the meaning of right? Now we come to the types of rights or the kinds of rights. Here we have just classified them just to get a better understanding. There are certain natural rights which you get by birth. They are kind of similar to human rights also. Like right to dignity, right to live, right to food, shelter, etc. Then there are cultural rights. We'll come to the legal rights also, that contextual rights and statutory rights, constitutional right and fundamental right. So here by natural rights, we mean these are the parts of human nature and reason. Political theory explains that an individual has certain basic rights and the government cannot deny these rights to any person. In classical political philosophy, natural right denotes to the objective rightness of the right things. What I'm trying to impress upon you here is these are the different kinds of the rights, but these rights have been incorporated into fundamental rights also, that you will just see in the forthcoming slides. That certain human rights, certain cultural rights, certain legal rights, political rights, civil rights, all these rights have been incorporated into the fundamental rights. And then there are statutory rights, contextual rights also. So here by human rights, we say that these are of the highest order. Once you take away those rights, the person does not remain a human even. Then there are cultural rights. We'll come to that aspect in the Constitution of India. It defends that right under article number 29 to 30, protection of minorities, interest of minorities and right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. Then comes legal rights. Legal rights are like they are available to every citizen, all citizens, and they follow without any discrimination. Then contextual rights. Here the contextual rights are those rights with which the state is not concerned. And let me just clarify here, even the contextual rights may be with the state. For example, tomorrow the government of Delhi is going to construct some school. It may get it constructed through its own agency like PWD, or it may also float tenders for which any contractor may bid. And if its bid is accepted and he enters into a contract with the government, then in case of breach of the contract by the government, the person does not have any fundamental right, but he has the contextual right against the government because this is a commercial transaction. Then there are statutory rights, as I talked about, we'll come to this point, like Consumer Protection Act, like Equal Remuneration ke baare mein acts, and there are Manufactories Act, Right to Information Act. So many acts are there. Whatever other acts are there, they are all statutory rights. Then constitutional rights, here we come like right to property, which was earlier a fundamental right, but through this 44th Amendment Act, this was placed under Article 300A, taken from the Fundamental Rights chapter. And then they are the fundamental rights. This is the main thrust of today's discussion, fundamental rights. And then before I come to the main topic of the fundamental right, let me just clarify who can grant or take away the rights. If we go by the history, then we may say that in earlier period, this is just for better understanding, though we are concerned only with constitution today, but here I'm just explaining that earlier the rights were granted by God even. आप तपस्या करते थे, भगवान प्रकट होते थे, आपसे पूछते, आप उनसे कहते थे कि मुझे वर दीजिए, या भगवान पूछते थे बच्चे वर मांगे, आपने कहा कि मुझे 100 साल तक जिंदा रहे, 1000 साल तक जिंदा रहे, उन्होंने कहा तथास्तु. आपने कहा मुझे महल दिए जाएं, उन्होंने कहा तथास्तु. Once the God has granted you that life which cannot be taken away by anyone else, so you have got a right to live for 1000 years. There are ample number of stories where the demons or the human beings will do worship of Shivji or Brahmaji to get this long life or to get the material things. So once you have been granted with certain kinds of possessions like palaces or the kinds of fortune, that cannot be taken away by anyone else, because that is granted by the God. It's just for an understanding. So who can take away or the rights even? There were certain rishi, we know Durvasa rishi, he will say कि अभी भस्म हो जाइए आप, या आप जानवर बन जाइए, तो आप तुरंत बन जाते हैं. तो there were certain persons who had got those kinds of rights to take away other persons of rights or the powers or authorities. Then there were kings. Kings used to grant certain fortunes. They used to give dan also. They would give you some prizes which may not be taken away by anyone else. So you get exclusive right over those prizes, on those donations, on those kinds of titles, etc. Then there were some clergies. They may also grant you certain kinds of priests. They may grant you certain kinds of rights to perform puja or something else, or they may prohibit you. They used to do so. I'm not on that topic whether they used to do that right early or wrongly. I'm just explaining that there were certain persons who will say that no, you are not entitled to do the worship or so and so, or you cannot do the this kind of havan. So those were the persons who used to take or grant or take away the rights. Then the society at large used to make rules, like they would force a person to leave the particular village in case he commits certain kinds of crime. They will do हुक्का बंद कर देना उनका, society में बैठने से मना कर दिया. So that right to live with dignity has been taken away by the society. कभी ऐसा होता था कि हम इनके परिवार में शादी नहीं करेंगे, वो भी एक राइट होता था. पंचायत होती थी, पंचायत में भी किसी प्रकार के निर्णय लिए जाते थे. Then came the government. With the government, we may say even that these Englishmen we also took away our rights. They imposed their laws upon us. And now we see, and the government of India also here, they enact laws for us. We see every day some new laws are coming, or old acts are getting repealed, or the old acts are getting amended. There are so many kinds of acts like Arbitration Conciliation Act, Contract Act, Partnership Act, Sale of Goods Act, Consumer Protection Act, so and so. And then are the people themselves. We people also grant ourselves some rights, or certain kinds of laws are enacted by us. For that, I may just tell you about the preamble of our constitution. Constitution is not enacted, but is given by us on ourselves. So people may also take or grant rights collectively. Here we say in the preamble of the Constitution of India, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens, so and so, so and so, in our Constituted Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt. So we are hereby adopting it. Nobody has enforced it upon us, enact and give to ourselves this constitution. While other acts do not have that kind of language, they say that this act is getting enacted by the parliament in so and so date. Like I would read, just like for any other act, you will find that this act was enacted by the parliament in the year of 2006, so and so. Then we come to the next step. Can rights be waived off? Here, when we go to the different kinds of rights, then there are fundamental rights which cannot be waived off. We'll come to that point. And then there are certain rights which you may waive off, like contractual rights. You have lent money to someone and that person is not repaying it, then you may waive off your right. You may not approach the court of law. You may simply say, oh yes, I know that you have suffered some losses in the business, or you are yourself starving, so you may not provide me that money back. So you may waive off your contractual rights. There are certain statutory rights also which you may waive off, but not the fundamental rights. For that, the reason is doctrine of waiver saying that the fundamental rights were not put in the constitution merely for individual benefit. These rights were there as a matter of public policy. So when we go to the chapter on the, we'll be explaining those rights which come under the scope of fundamental rights. We'll find that why these cannot be waived off by an individual. Why a person cannot say that, okay, the state may take away my right, life, or the state may not provide me certain kinds of facilities which have been guaranteed by the law to me. So here, the reasons is, it may be of interest to know that in the USA, fundamental right can be waived off, but not in India actually. So here there are certain judgments where the Behram v. State of versus State of Maharashtra, the Supreme Court said the majority of the bench repudiated the doctrine of waiver, stating that the fundamental rights were not put in the constitution merely for individual benefit. These rights were there as a matter of public policy, and therefore the doctrine of waiver would have no application in case of fundamental rights. Then there were another judgment, Olga Telis and others versus Bombay Municipal Corporation. Here the Supreme Court said no individual can barter away the freedoms conferred on him by the Constitution. The higher purpose which the Constitution seeks to achieve by conferment of fundamental rights is not only to benefit the individual, but to secure the larger interests of the community. I would be explaining that how securing a person's right secures the right of the larger community, like right to education, right to health. This affects the whole society, not one individual. Now, another topic is who can enforce rights and when. Here, I would be coming on that aspect that rights are, these fundamental rights may be categorized into 2-3 categories. There are certain rights which are available to the, though these rights are available to the citizens, but there are certain rights which are not available to the foreigners. So we have categorized them into 2 categories, that only citizens, 15, 16, 19, 29 and 30. And there are another kinds of fundamental rights which can be exercised by the foreigners even. And there are certain rights, yes, rights can be taken away by the parliament, by the government during the emergency. But there are 2 articles which cannot be taken away. One is 20 and Article 21. So we'll be explaining them in detail. Now, can someone else seek protection of your rights? So who can enforce rights? So you can enforce your rights, and by filing writ petition before the Supreme Court of India under Article 32, as well as by filing writ petition before the High Court of the concerned state under Article 226. But under certain situations, someone else can also seek protection of your rights. Now, what that category is? Now, since we all read newspaper, on and off we see a news that someone filed PIL, public interest litigation. What does this public interest litigation mean? Public interest litigation means many things, and particularly the evolution of public interest litigation came into picture when it was noticed that there are certain class of persons who can never approach the court because of their social or economic weakness in the society. Like prison inmates, they may not approach the courts. Like women, like children, like animals, like the environment itself, Mother Earth itself. So for the protection of those persons or animals' rights, some other person files the public interest litigation before the High Court or the Supreme Court of India by asserting that these persons could not have come before their lordships. Hence, this petition has been filed by that person. Otherwise, the court would ask you, what is your locus standi? Locus standi means your right to stand before the court. You cannot simply say that, sir, the Mr. X took loan from Mr. Y. Since Mr. X is not returning the loan, hence you please grant a decree in favor of Mr. Y. Here, Mr. Y has to go before the court and seek enforcement of his statutory right or contractual right. But if there is a person who has got illegally confined, then another person can go before the court by filing a writ petition and to writ of habeas corpus by saying that the person has been illegally confined either by the state or by someone else. That's why this person needs to be released from that illegal confinement. So thus we find that someone else can also seek protection of rights under certain circumstances. This I have just explained how to enforce your rights. Rights here we are talking about all kinds of rights. Your contractual rights can be enforced by filing certain kinds of petitions or civil suits or complaints. Like you have got a statutory right under Consumer Protection Act. So you may file a consumer complaint before consumer dispute redressal agencies. These are District Consumer Forum, State Consumer Forum, and National Consumer Commission. But in case you have entered into a commercial contract, then you have two kinds of remedies. You may file a civil suit before the lowest judiciary, like particular kind of jurisdiction is there. If your relief which you are seeking is of up to ₹3 lakh, then you file the civil suit before the civil judge, and then if it is of particular amount, then you go before the district judge, and if it is crossing that particular amount, just like in Delhi High Court, if your relief is beyond 2 crore, then you approach the Delhi High Court. But in case there is an arbitration clause in your agreement, then you may also seek the alternate dispute resolution mechanism of invoking that arbitration clause. We'll go that aspect later. What is that arbitration? Arbitration is a private mechanism whereby you choose the arbitrator who will adjudicate your disputes. You may have the liberty of deciding the date on which the hearing will take place, the place where the hearing will take place, and the time when you would like to assemble before the arbitrator. So this is a kind of private adjudication of your disputes, though backed by the statute. Any decision given by the arbitrator is binding upon both the parties, but not on others at all. But the civil courts can grant certain kinds of remedies which are applicable on the other persons also. Like you seek declaration of your rights. Then if the civil court is granting you declaration, then that is against the in rem, against the whole world. Then again, what is meant by the fundamental rights? These fundamental rights are enshrined in the Part 3 of the Constitution of India. The basic feature of these fundamental rights are that these are guaranteed by the Constitution, and for guaranteeing these rights, the mechanism has been provided in the fundamental right itself, Article 32, which itself is a fundamental right to approach the Supreme Court to enforce your rights. They are enforceable by law. They form the basic of all other derivative rights. As I've said, just like you have right to education, then the Right to Education Act was enacted. You are having certain kinds of right for minimum basic mazduri. So like you have the right to enforce to get the good services also, so that then you get the Consumer Protection Act also. They form the basic structure of the constitution, which cannot be infringed by the parliament. So we have classified these fundamental rights into 6 categories. Earlier there were 7 kinds of fundamental rights, but as I explained earlier, right to property has been taken away from the arena of fundamental rights and has been placed under Article 300A, which is now a constitutional right, but not the fundamental right. The first kind of category is right to equality, which is grouped under Article 14 to 18, then right to freedom, Article 19 to 22, right against exploitation, Article 23 to 24, right to freedom of religion, Article 25 to 28, cultural and educational right, Article 29 to 30, right to constitutional remedies, Article 32 mainly. So here, if we see the title of these rights, right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, right to constitutional remedy, etc., what we find is that these are the compendium of natural rights, oblique human rights, oblique basic rights, without which a person may not enjoy his life as a human being particularly. So as I shown in the first slide, there was no right to equality. Certain race of persons on the ground of their color or on the ground of their race or on the ground of their place of birth was not having those rights which were available to other kind of persons. But now there cannot be any discrimination on these grounds. So first we go for this right to equality. As I said, this is enshrined in Article 14 to 18. Right to equality. Article 14 says equality before law. So there cannot be inequality. We all are equal before the law. The Article 14 says the state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or the equal protection of laws within the territory of India on any ground. Then Article 15 is there, prohibition of discrimination on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. Then Article 16, equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. Article 17, abolition of untouchability. We'll go on these aspects in detail. Then Article 18, abolition of titles. Then right to freedom. Article 19. Then Article 20, protection in respect of conviction for offense. We'll go in detail. They are very basic rights which we must know, that you cannot be convicted for the same offense twice, like you cannot be handcuffed, like you cannot be arrested without giving you the reasons for your arrest, or you cannot be deprived of your right to consult your counsel of your choice. Then protection of life and personal liberty. This is the basic of all right. This is the most important right, Article 21, which is ever expanding, under which lots of rights have been recognized. Then Article 22, protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. Right against exploitation, prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor. I just saw in the first picture that the girl child was forced to do the labor. Now you cannot be forced to do kind of bonded labor. Then Article 24, prohibition of employment of children in factories. These are all provided. Then right to freedom of religion, and I'll explain these in detail, but these are just to give you glimpse. Article 25, freedom of conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of religion. So the maker of the constitution realized that a person is not allowed to profess his religion or culture or educational interest, then he may not enjoy his manhood or the humanity in the full force. So just because you have been provided roti kapda makan does not mean that you are living a full life, a proper life. Then for the cultural and educational rights, protection of interest of minorities, so given in the Article 29 and 30, and right to constitutional remedies. Remedies for enforcement of right conferred by these parties to approach the Supreme Court of India. then right under Article 14. Let me just explain you a little bit in detail so you know what kinds of rights you have under Article 14. Equality before the law. The state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or the equal protection of laws. So nobody can say that simply because the person is rich or some person is of certain age or some person is from certain territory in India, so he has got better or bigger rights, special rights before the law or before the state. So state has to provide the rights to or protection to everyone without giving any kind of special protection to anyone. Then state of West Bengal versus Anwar Ali Sarkar case, the question was whether the right to equality is absolute or not was raised. So here the Supreme Court held that the right to equality is not absolute. In this case, the state of Bengal was found to use its power arbitrarily to refer any case to the special court which was made by them. It was held that the act of state of Bengal violates the right to equality. But under certain circumstances, these rights may not be, you cannot say that I am having the same right. For example, you have the right, I'll come to that point later on, that you have the right to go to any restaurant. But suppose you have committed a crime, then you can be arrested. You cannot say that I have got this equality before the law, so I have also got the right to go to the restaurant of my choice while I'm in the prison. Your right has been curtailed because you have committed crime. So your rights are subject to certain conditions. Then Article 15 is there, which says the state shall not discriminate against any citizens on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. So it further says, like, but women, children, socially and educationally backward classes of citizens, SC and STs, are the exceptions. The state can make special laws for the enhancement or the betterment of these kinds of persons. That's why they are protection of women from the Domestic Violence Act there, and that POXO Act is there to protect the children from the sexual offenses. Then there is promotion or there is reservation in the educational institutions for the SC, STs or for the disabled persons or for the persons from a certain regions in the country. So Article 15 is not also absolute. So here further it says, no citizen shall on grounds only of religion, this is Article 15 2, which says only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or any of them, be subject to any disability, liability, restriction or condition with regard to access to shops, public restaurants, hotels and places of public entertainment. So in a place of public entertainment or hotels or place or restaurants, etc., or shops, you cannot deny entry to a person merely because that person is having different kind of height or kind of facial features, or like he's from a different religion or from different caste, or if from a particular region of India. So these are all prohibited. If somebody, if the state does make any kind of discrimination, then you can approach the Supreme Court of India or the High Court. Further, it further says that the use of wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads, and places of public resort maintained wholly or partly out of state funds or dedicated to the use of general public. So the state cannot make discrimination amongst its citizens by saying that so and so kind of persons can go on these bathing ghats or can use those roads. They are open to all. Then comes the next one, Article 16. This is again equality of opportunity in the matter of public employment. This is very important. The state cannot make certain kinds of rules like certain person would be entitled for promotions or certain kind of persons would not be allowed to get the public employment. You cannot be said that you are, since Hindu or Christian or Buddhist or something, then you will not be entitled to contest for IAS exam or for this judiciary. So public employment, every person is having equal opportunity. So what it reads is, there shall be equality of opportunity for all citizens. So here we see this right is only for citizens, not for the foreigners, in matters relating to employment or appointment of any office under the state. Further it says, No citizen shall, on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex means female or male, descent, place of birth, residence, or any of them, be ineligible or discriminated against in respect of any employment or office under the state. So now, if you remember, there were certain demands that this kind of right should be granted for the private employment also. Like these companies should be made to make such kind of rules that they cannot discriminate among persons. But that is still a demand which has not been extended to the private companies. But now the exceptions are always there. Nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any provision from the reservation of appointments or posts in favor of any backward class of citizens, which in the opinion of the state is not adequately represented in the service under the state. So there are kind of exceptions. You all know that certain kind of reservations have been provided because those persons are not were not treated equally earlier, or there are certain other reasons. Then Article 17 is there, abolition of untouchability. We all know to be untouchable, which is which was in gross violation of the human rights. All humans are equal. No one can say that I'm superior to you. You cannot touch me. There were certain times when even the shadow of a person, untouchable person, if goes, then that person will be punished. We all know that certain persons were prohibited from doing the havans or puja. We'll come to that right later on. So we find that these all rights have come because of the observations of those maker of the constitution in the society present at those time when the constitution was enacted. So abolition of untouchability is there. Mahatma Gandhi used to say that this untouchability is kind of path. He used to say this is a gross violation of human rights. So then Article 18 is there, abolition of titles. You all must have heard like Rai Bahadur. There were some Rai Bahadur title given by the Englishmen to Indians when they used to do something for them. Or like Sher Bahadur or some kind of Nawab, Rai Sahab. So many kinds of titles were there which used to be given, which made those persons above other citizens. But now this abolition of title is there under Article 18, which says no title not being a military or academic distinction shall be conferred by the state. Even the state cannot grant those kinds of titles. And then another is no citizen of India shall accept any title from any foreign state. So the persons are all equal, though there are certain kinds like from which you get, like you get Bharat Ratan also. So those are the exceptions. Otherwise, no other kind of title will be given by the state to anyone. Then the next one is Article 19. So these are rights. Suppose that what I am trying to impress upon is that you find that certain state government, for that matter, or like the union government is granting certain kind of title to certain kind of persons, then you may immediately move the High Court or the Supreme Court by asserting that this is prohibited. This is my right to be treated with equality. So you cannot grant that kind of titles. Then Article 19 is there. It's very, very important. Article 19 says right to freedom. So we are done with this first part, right to equality wala. Now we are on this right to freedom. So in this right to freedom, protection of certain rights regarding freedom of speech, etc. The title is that. So here we get all citizens shall have the right. All citizens only, not the foreigners. All citizens shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression. Here the question comes, who is called a citizen? For that the Article 5 is there. And then Citizenship Act 1955 is also there, which defines who is a citizen. A citizen might be a person who has got birth in this country, whose parents are from this country, or who has been conferred citizenship under particular kind of act. So and so are there. We are not going on that aspect, just to explain to you that this is also provided under an act as well as under the constitution itself. But this is not a fundamental right. So here, all citizens shall have the right to freedom of speech and expressions. Then to assemble peacefully and without arms. Third one is to form associations or unions. D is to move freely throughout the territory of India. E is to reside and settle in any part of territory of India. And G is very important, to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or businesses. So here, let us just explain a little bit like freedom of speech and expression. So now you just see that as we have today assembled through this virtual meeting conference, we are exercising our rights under Article 19. First one is the right to form associations or unions. NSS is an association or the union of persons. So we have exercised that right under Article 19C. We have today assembled peacefully without arms. So we have been granted this right under Article 19B. The state cannot prohibit us from having this conference today. The state cannot prohibit a person from forming associations. You see, always these kinds of associations are there. You make your associations in your society, like welfare associations. Then you have some kind of auto union association, like traders association, or some kind of religious association, Hindu Mahasabha or Jain Samaj, so and so. Then you have the freedom of speech and expression. Today we all are exercising our freedom of speech and expression. Asta ji also expressed her freedom of speech. I am also exercising, principals have also expressed. And you, by listening to a person of your choice, is also exercising your right to freedom of speech and expression. So here the state cannot stop us from holding this kind of virtual meets where we are not infringing the rights of other person. We are assembling peacefully without arms, so and so. And then you see the right to freely move throughout the territory of India. We all know we can go anywhere in India. We all in the summer, whole of Delhi goes to the hills, flock to the hills, and then to reside and settle in any part of territory of India, particularly with the this Kashmir issue, which has been also done away with. Now you can also purchase some property there, if I'm not wrong. And then third one, last one is that to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or business. Here you have got all rights to practice any profession. Here I become advocate. You are students. You may choose to become any kind of trader. You may become businessman. You may become chartered accountant. And nobody is there to force you. If somebody forces, including your parents, then you can immediately file writ petition before the Supreme Court or High Court by saying that my parents are forcing me to become chartered accountant while I want to become an artist or like a musician. So you have got the full freedom. Then next comes Article 20. Article 20, protection in respect of conviction for offences. Here it says, no person shall be convicted of any offence except for violation of a law. It's very important. No person. So here it is applicable to all persons. Person means any person, not even, not only the citizens. No person shall be convicted of any offence except for violation of a law in force at the time of commission of the act charged as an offence. It's very important to understand. So what it is saying is, if there is an act there and you commit the violation of that act, then only you can be convicted of that offence. The state cannot make a law today and then convict you for violating that provision of law in past. So just like this, in Delhi now it has been made a law that you cannot park your vehicle in the in the bus lane. If you park your car there, then you will be fined with rupees 500 to 2,000 rupees something. As well, these buses cannot, the bus drivers cannot ply their buses in other lanes. So they will be fined with rupees 10,000. So suppose that their law came into effect on 1st of June 2022. But I had parked my car in the bus lane in the month of April. The state cannot convict me for that offense or cannot fine me with that, because that would be in retrospect. All the laws are generally in prospect operation. And the further, it says that not be subjected to a penalty greater than what that which might have been inflicted under the law in force at the time of the commission of the offense. Suppose today is the penalty of rupees 500 to 2000 rupees. So the state cannot, this policeman cannot impose a penalty of 5,000 upon me merely because they do not like my face or they do not like my size of the car. They have to confine themselves within this authority which they have got. If they violate that right, my right to this protection in respect of conviction for offences, then I can approach the court by saying that they are discriminating. Second is, no person shall be prosecuted and punished for the same offence more than once. Is very important. If I have committed a wrong today, then I can be punished only once, not twice. Third one is, no person accused of any offence shall be compelled to be a witness against himself. This is very important. Suppose I have been arrested for committing forgery. Now the police cannot force me to give testimony against me. So you might be knowing that in case you say something before the police under the force, the police cannot take the benefit of that confession before the court. There are certain conditions like recovery of some kind of weapon because of that confession. During the confession, you say that yes, I have killed that person with the weapon which I have thrown in that river, and the police recovers the weapon, and then your fingerprints are there, or some certain kinds of DNA tests are carried on, and it is proved that this weapon was used by you. Then certainly that confession, that part of confession can be used. But otherwise, you cannot be made a witness against yourself. Self-incrimination cannot be allowed. Then comes Article 21. Rights under Article 21 is very special, very, this is the soul and heart of this constitution, right to life. It says protection of life and personal liberty. No person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. Both things are to be understood. No person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. Suppose I cannot be deprived of my life by the state. The state cannot kill me, or the state cannot imprison me. But according to procedure established by law, it can do it. The procedure is that if I violate the law, then I can be arrested, I can be tried as per the law before the court of law, and then I can be imprisoned. Similarly, if I commit such a grave crime, then I may be sentenced to death. So my life may be taken away by the state, but according to the process established by law. And this one and the last one, Article 20 and 21, cannot be even taken away during the emergency. There were very much controversy regarding that. Earlier there was judgment that it can be taken away. Then there were judgments they cannot. These rights cannot be taken away. They are too much basic rights which cannot be taken away by the government even during the emergency. Now here I would like to just tell you about these rights. These are not the. You must have heard about the Magna Carta, which was adopted by King John in the year of 1215. This was the first written charter of rights. Earlier there were no right recognized. Here now we see in ancient India, there were certain rights recognized to the citizens or to the even animals. The examples would be many, but I would just give you a few examples. Like in Treta Yuga, you see Raja Dasrath killed the Shravan Kumar. You all know Shravan Kumar was carrying his parents in kind of on his soldiers, make arrangement for some Tirth Yatra, and meanwhile his parents felt thirsty, and then he went to the river side to carry some water to his parents. And while King Dashrath was on this hunting spree, so through his Shabd Bedi Ban, thinking that it is a kind of elephant which is making that kind of noise, gar 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 noise हो रहा था, because he was filling his vessel. तो उस दौरान उन्होंने जो अपना तीर चलाया, जिसकी वजह से एक innocent person की death हो गई. Raja Dashath also felt guilty. He went to the parents of Shravan Kumar, and the parents cursed him कि जिस दिन आप भी अपने बेटे के वियोग में मरोगे जैसे आज हम मर रहे हैं। तो मेरा यहाँ पर आपसे कहना है कि ठीक है कि किंग का कोई ट्रायल नहीं हुआ, परंतु this right was recognized, like you cannot kill an innocent person. If he has not committed any kind of fault, you cannot kill him. And even if the king was not above the law, through this Magna Carta, this was recognized that king is not above the law. But in ancient, in Treta Yuga, 5,000 years back, we had that law that king cannot even take away the right to life of an innocent citizen, and he has to pay for it. And he in fact paid when he got he died when one Ram was sent to the forest for 12 years. Then Dapar Yug. In Dapar Yug, you all know, if you have seen this Mahabharata, कि King Pandu, he was also on शिकार के लिए गए थे और वहां पर ऋषि किंदम अपनी वाइफ के साथ मीटिंग कर रहे थे in the form of deer. एंड किंदम ने भी सब बेड़ी बांध से उनको चला दिया, बल्कि वो समझ रहे थे कि वो एक डियर है, केवल एक हिरन है, ऐसा सोच करके उन्होंने तीर चलाया. और देन इट टर्न आउट दैट ऋषि किंदम वाज यूजिंग हिज पावर्स टू ट्रांसफॉर्म हिम इनटू एनी काइंड ऑफ पर्सन और एनी काइंड ऑफ एनिमल टू एंजॉय हिज लाइफ. सो देन किंग पांडु आल्सो आर्ग्यूड दैट कि मैं राजा हूं और मेरे को शिकार करने का हक है. और उन्होंने कहा नहीं, जिस तरह से आपने मुझे अपनी वाइफ से एंजॉयमेंट के वक्त मारा है, मुझे राइट टू लाइफ से डिप्राइव किया है, उसी प्रकार आप भी मारे जाएंगे अगर आप अपनी पत्नी के साथ में इस तरह का कोई एक्ट करेंगे. तो उस टाइम भी वो राइट को इन्फोर्स किया गया, मीनिंग दैट द राइट टू लाइफ वाज रिकॉग्नाइज्ड इन द द्वापर युग आल्सो. So no innocent person could be killed. And not only these persons, but even the animals had the right to life. आपको याद हो जब भगवान परशुराम जी के पास में कर्ण ब्रह्मास्त्र की शिक्षा लेने के लिए गए थे, so that he can use that weapon against Arjun in the Mahabharata Yuddha. So that time, while he was coming down to the foothill, that time he heard a noise and उन्होंने भी शायद बेड़ी बाण चलाया और उसकी वजह से गाय को लगा और वो गाय की डेथ हो गई. और जब उसके पास वो पहुंचे तो जो गाय के मालिक ब्राह्मण थे, उन्होंने उनको श्राप दिया कि तुमने एक निर्दोष गाय की हत्या की है, मैं तुम्हें श्राप देता हूं कि जब तुम अपना सबसे बड़ा युद्ध कर रहे होंगे तो उस टाइम भूमि आपके रथ को निगल लेगी, आपका पहिया रथ फंस जाएगा. और वही हुआ. जब कर्ण अपने सबसे लास्ट युद्ध में गए अर्जुन के साथ में, तो एकदम से उनके पहिया भूमि में धंस गया, जो कि उनकी मृत्यु का एक कारण बना. तो यहां पर भी हम देखते हैं कि आप एक एनिमल के राइट को भी हमने रिकॉग्नाइज किया. सेम इज वाइल्ड लाइफ प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट, जहां पर आप सर्टेन स्पेसीज को आप मार नहीं सकते आज की तारीख में. आप किसी पीकॉक को नहीं मार सकते हैं, आप किसी और प्रोहिबिटेड लाइक टाइगर है उनका शिकार नहीं कर सकते आज की तारीख में. तो उनको भी राइट टू लाइफ दिया गया हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अंदर में. देन यू जस्ट सी राइट टू लाइफ. और भी मैं आपको थोड़ा सा दिखाता हूं. सॉरी, दिस इज राइट टू लाइफ एंसेंट इंडिया. अब यहां आप देखेंगे त्रेता युग में एक राजा शिवी हुए थे जो अपनी न्याय व्यवस्था के लिए बहुत प्रसिद्ध थे. तो कहते हैं कि एक बार वो अपने दरबार में थे तो अचानक से एक कबूतर उनके पास आया और उसने कहा कि हे राजन, मेरे प्राणों की रक्षा कीजिए, मैं आपका शरणागत हूं. राजा ने कहा ठीक है. तभी एक बाज ने वहां पर एंट्री ली और बाज ने कहा कि हे राजन, ये मेरा शिकार है, इसे वापस कीजिए. तो राजा ने कहा कि इसने मुझसे शरण मांगी है, मैं इसके प्राणों की रक्षा करूंगा. तो उसने कहा देखिए राजन, मेरा भी खाने का अधिकार है, राइट टू फूड, और अगर मैं खाना नहीं खाऊंगा तो मैं मर जाऊंगा, तो मेरे अधिकार की रक्षा करना भी आपका कर्तव्य है. तो राजा धर्म संकट में फंस गए. व्हाट वाज दैट धर्म संकट? इसका मतलब कि दो देयर वाज नो रिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, स्टिल राइट टू फूड, राइट टू लाइफ एंड राइट टू प्रोटेक्शन ऑल वर रिकॉग्नाइज्ड. तो राजा ने सोचा कि अगर मैं इस पक्षी को वापस करता हूं, कबूतर को वापस करता हूं, तो इसका राइट टू सीक प्रोटेक्शन और राइट टू लाइफ का इन्फ्रिंजमेंट हो रहा है. और अगर मैं अपने ये दूसरे पक्षी बाज को मना करता हूं तो वो भूखा मर जाएगा, तो राइट टू फूड का हनन होगा. तब राजा शिवी ने कहा कि देखिए, मैं इसे वापस नहीं करूंगा, परंतु आपके रक्षा अधिकारों की रक्षा के लिए मैं अपने ही मांस को आपको अर्पण करूंगा. तो कहते हैं कि उन्होंने कहा कि जितना इस कबूतर में वजन है उतना ही मैं अपना मांस आपको देता हूं. तो उन्होंने अपने शरीर के टुकड़े कर करके डालने शुरू किए. तो कहते हैं कि वो जो कबूतर और बाज थे वो भगवान के अवतार थे, एक अग्नि के रूप के, एक इंद्र देवता के थे. जिन्होंने राजा शिबी की परीक्षा लेने के लिए आए थे। तो कहते हैं कि बहुत सारे अंक काट दिए गए, अंत में जाकर के दोनों प्रकट हुए, उन्होंने आशीर्वाद दिया। तो यहाँ पर हम ये देख रहे हैं कि क्या वहां भी चेक एंड प्रोटेक्शन था कि क्या राजा शिबी सच में न्याय दे रहे हैं, और राजा शिबी ने भी इस बात को रिकॉग्नाइज किया कि इवन बर्ड्स हैड राइट in his kingdom if they were living in there, if they are coming to his court. Then comes right to die. This is very controversial one. This issue you might be knowing. There was a nurse in Bombay hospital. She was raped by another Safai Kamchari, because of which she lost her consciousness and became in vegetative state. वो कुछ समझ नहीं पा रही थी. She was totally confined to the bed, and because of which certain persons filed PIL, I think several times, not once, and all the times it was refused. They said that she should be given euthanasia. So the Supreme Court said that right to life does not include right to die. You might be knowing about the practice of Santhara also, in which a person stops taking food and dies slowly. So this is not kind of, he's not committing the suicide technically, but he's just stopped taking the nourishment to his body. So there might be some other things. So this right to die has not been recognized in the Constitution or by the courts of law, which will open a Pandora box, because certain persons may say that I am too ill, so I'm not enjoying my life. And you see so many people commit suicide, so they will also come to the court saying, I have suffered the loss in my business, I do not have any hopes. Or someone may say that my son or daughter has committed such kind of crime, because of which I have lost all kinds of respect in the society. I do not want to live, so let me die. Though people do die by committing suicide, but this is an offense. If you fail in committing the suicide, then you will be imprisoned. So this is not your right to die. Then there are certain other judgments, right, which says that right to life does not include right to die or right to be killed. It was further held that right to life was a natural right. So here you see that this Article 21 has been treated as a natural right, or you may say the natural right has been taken into Article 21. But suicide was unnatural. So now you see, to live is natural, but to die is unnatural. आपको जान दी नहीं जा सकती, तो आपसे जान ली नहीं जा सकती है. Termination or extinction of life, and therefore incompatible and inconsistent, so and so. So here we just remember one story of this right to life and right to live, where Prince Siddharth was there in his palace, where his elder brother shot one arrow on a swan. That swan fell into the lap of this Prince Siddharth, who was later famous as Lord Buddha. So Prince Siddharth said that I'll not return this swan to you because I have found it. But उनके बड़े भाई ने कहा कि ये देखो तीर मैंने चलाया, तो ये पक्षी मेरा हो गया. तो दोनों अपने पिता की कोर्ट में गए, तो वहां पर दोनों ने अपने आर्गुमेंट्स किए. तो लॉर्ड बुद्धा ने आर्ग्यू किया कि सिंस ये अभी मरा नहीं है, तो एक तरह से हम कह सकते हैं कि वो एडवोकेट बनने की परंपरा वहां से शुरू हुई. उन्होंने इस पक्षी के प्राणों की रक्षा की, एक एडवोकेट बनकर के उनके बिहाफ पर उन्होंने एक तरह से कहिए PIL लगाई और कहा कि देखिए ये पक्षी अभी मरा नहीं है और हमारे कानून के हिसाब से जब मर जाएगा तभी इनका हो सकता है. तो वो एक उस तरह का कानून रहा होगा. तो उन्होंने कहा कि दिस बर्ड बिलोंग्स टू द स्काईज वेयर इट फ्लाइज, सो आई एम सिंपली असिस्टिंग दिस बर्ड टू हील, to get back to its normal state, and this bird has the right to live, right to recover. So then that right was upheld. So what I am trying to impress upon is that हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में भी, जैसा मैंने पहले बताया कि अनटचेबिलिटी बहुत ज्यादा थी, लाइक सब कहिए कि डाउरी का प्रोविजन पहले सोसाइटी में हुआ करता था, आप कहिए कि ब्राइड बर्निंग थी, या आप कहिए कि सती प्रथा थी. ये सारी चीजें गलत थी. One lady who has just got widow would be sent to the pyre to die with to get burned with the body of her husband was totally wrong. So that has been recognized under right to life, that even if your husband has died, you have right to life. It cannot be taken away by anyone. So when there is a conflict of traditions or moral rights or cultural rights or social rights what I mean by is uncodified right, which is not codified anywhere, then those rights have to give way to your statutory rights or fundamental rights. So you may say that might be that this is a tradition, might be this is the old customs. Still, I have been granted this fundamental right, which shall prevail. So you would approach the state to protect your fundamental rights. Sorry, the court to protect your fundamental rights. Then further, right to health. So you have got a right to health. As I told you earlier, this right to life has been so expanded by the courts through a series of judgments in which they expanded like right to sleep also. आप सबको याद होगा कि बाबा रामदेव एक बार यहाँ पर आमरण अनशन धरना कर रहे थे और जब पुलिस ने आकर के अचानक से सबको भगा दिया वहां से, तो एक पिटीशन फाइल की गई सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जिसमें कहा गया कि वी हैव द राइट टू स्लीप. The state cannot deprive the citizens from their right to sleep at the night, which was upheld by the Supreme Court. So this Article 21 has been expanded by saying that this right to life is not a simple basic right of living like cattle or some trees or something. You have so many other rights, like right to live with human dignity, right to the decent environment, including pollution-free water and air and protection. As principal sir also said, that don't we have the right for have a pollution-free environment? Because of these ACs and cars, every day we are having so many heat waves and pollution, so and so. So the people have filed several petitions before the Supreme Court and the High Courts to say to safeguard the protect environment by saying that trees are getting cut or like industries, haphazard industries are getting installed in these nearby areas, habitual areas. So those were removed. If you remember, ताजमहल के आसपास जो फैक्ट्रीज थी उनको भी हटा दिया गया. अगर आपको याद हो, दिल्ली में पहले पूरे रेजिडेंशियल इलाकों में तरह तरह की फैक्ट्रीज होती थी, वो बंद कर दी गई. शाहजहां में एक फटफट सेवा चलती थी, वो बंद कर दी गई. इनफैक्ट जस्टिस कुलदीप नैयर वाज टर्म्ड एज ग्रीन जज. तरह तरह के हमारे राइट्स को रिकॉग्नाइज किया गया. सीएनजी बसेस भी इसी तरह आई हैं. तो ये हमारे क्लीन एनवायरनमेंट का राइट है. फिर राइट टू लाइवलीहुड है हमारा, राइट अगेंस्ट हैजर्डस इंडस्ट्रीज है, राइट टू प्राइवेसी. वी हैव अ राइट टू प्राइवेसी. नोबडी कैन इन्फ्रिंज आवर प्राइवेसी subject to certain like kind of restrictions may be imposed by the government for the safety of the nation. Like there are some persons who are trying to terrorize the country or making conspiracies against the nation, then this right can be taken away. Right to shelter, right to health, on which we are just now here, right to free education. You all know Right to Education Act, where you are this is compulsory and mandatory upon the state to provide education to the kids. Then right to free legal aid. You might not be knowing that a person like a woman or a person belonging to SC/ST community or a weaker society, a person belonging to the weaker society, like a person is not having sufficient income, there is a benchmark, they all can go to the courts and can say, sir, I want to file a case against so and so person, so please appoint a lawyer to me. So the state maintains a panel of lawyers for those kind of persons. Of course, I cannot today go to the that authority to say that, sir, appoint a lawyer for me. I do not come under that criteria, but all women come under that criteria. They may go and say, sir, please file a case against my husband or the family or against my neighbor so and so for so and so wrong committed against me. And the similar way, children are to be provided with a free legal aid, and those persons who are not that much those are under the poverty line and so are also provided these kinds of free legal aid. Then right to speedy trial, though it may not be enforced in the true sense, the crores of cases are pending, but we do have on paper right to a speedy trial. Then they are right against solitary confinement also. By solitary confinement, you must have seen in some movies, in fact in the recent movie RRR, where the protagonist was put into this cabin under the earth. वो छोटा सा एक तहखाना बना के बंद कर दिया था जिसमें कि कोई और नहीं आ सकता था. तो उसमें उसको उनके दूसरे दोस्त ने छुड़ाया। पर अब हमारे सेक्शन 73 एंड 74 आईपीसी इंडियन पिनल कोड में दिया गया है कि आप किसी को सॉलिटरी कन्फाइनमेंट दे नहीं सकते। अगर किन्हीं परिस्थितियों में देना है तो उसके लिए नियम बनाए गए हैं कि आप कितना मैक्सिमम दे सकते हैं। किसी की इतने साल 1 साल सजा है तो आप मैक्सिमम से 30 दिन का सॉलिटरी कन्फाइनमेंट दे सकते हैं, दैट टू बी एट ए इंटरवल। आपको जितने दिन के लिए आप उनको रख रहे हैं उतने ही दिन का आपको बीच में इंटरवल भी देना पड़ेगा, बट यू कैन नॉट स्ट्रेस मोर देन 7 डेज। फिर 7 दिन का आपको इंटरवल देना होगा। इस तरह से आपको राइट अगेंस्ट सॉलिटरी कन्फाइनमेंट, सपोज द पुलिस कीप्स यू अंडर सॉलिटरी कन्फाइनमेंट और द Tihar jail authorities keep you, then you can move in writ petition before the Supreme Court saying that I have got this right. Then there is a right against handcuffing. Nobody can handcuff until unless there are certain exceptions are there. A person cannot be handcuffed. Right against inhuman treatment by the state. Right against delayed execution. A person cannot be kept into the prison and suppose he has been sentenced to that. So there are certain persons who even file petition before the Supreme Court that since the state has taken so long time to execute me, now I have got certain rights to live with dignity, and now the state cannot execute me. So these kinds of petitions are often filed कि आपको जो करना है जल्दी कीजिए, you cannot keep me hanging. आप मुझे हमेशा मृत्यु के डर से नहीं डरा सकते हैं. Then right to travel abroad, this cannot be taken away. इसमें तो बड़े बड़े judgments आए हैं हमारे कि if one person wants to go out then he cannot be stopped. Right against bonded labor, nobody can be forced to do the labor work. If he wants to do, he may come as a laborer and he will charge you as per the this remuneration fixed by the government, particularly the state governments. There are certain criteria fixed कि जो अपने अनस्किल्ड लेबर हैं उनके लिए पर्टिकुलर अमाउंट होगा, स्किल लेबर के लिए इतना होगा, सेमी स्किल के लिए इतना होगा, वो आपको देना पड़ेगा. Then right to medical aid, right against custodial harassment. No police can harass you in under the custody. आपसे जो पूछना है वो पूछ सकते हैं पर कोई harassment नहीं कर सकते हैं आपका. If they harass you then you can lodge the complaint. Time to right not to driven out of the state. आपको जबरदस्ती बाहर नहीं किया जा सकता है कंट्री से. Right to a fair trial. आपको कंगारू कोर्ट की तरह नहीं किया जा सकता है. कंगारू कोर्ट means where you are not heard. There are certain persons who do not, just like a khap panchayat kind of things. So the court, state cannot do it. They also cannot do it. But again, if the court is not providing you opportunity of disproving the charges made against you, or you are not getting the fair trial, then you may move the court by saying that my right to a fair trial has been infringed. Further is right of prisoners to have necessities of life. You cannot say simply that you are a prisoner, so will not let you sleep even, will not let you bath, will not let you eat food, or will not provide you even the clean air. You have the right. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि during this corona period, some inmates, imprisoned people also moved the courts by saying that we are having hazard, danger to our life inside the prisons because so many inmates are there. So ऐसा भी petitions वगैरह फाइल की गई. Then right against public hanging, you cannot hang a person in the public. And here we see this right, does right Article 21 include the right to reputation also. Then right to shelter. Then right to, there is a judgment also, the right to life is guaranteed in any civilized society that would take within its sweep the right to food, right to clothing, the right to decent environment, and a reasonable accommodation to live in. And then there are certain other judgments. Then further article, then the other dimensions are, let me just first finish the dimensions. Another dimension, right to information. Now the state cannot hide the information from you. We all know the power of Right to Information Act, which has been granted to the citizens. If any documents are there relating to the public affairs, then you all can file RTI application and the state is bound to disclose that information to you. So we keep listening we keep hearing in this TV, as well as we keep reading in the newspapers that so-and-so application was filed to obtain so-and-so information, but was denied by the information officer. And then the person was punished by so-and-so kind of fine, etc. So the state is under a duty to disclose the information kept by it. though there are certain kind of exceptions. If that information is pertaining to the security of India or to the reputation of some other person, or life or liberty of other person is endangered, and this is a big topic. Then other, his right to appeal from a judgment of conviction. So you see, suppose that you have been convicted by the trial court. So now you have got a right to appeal to the higher courts. Like if convicted by the metropolitan magistrate, you go before the session judge. If convicted by the session judge, you go before the high court, and then before the Supreme Court of India. So you have got, this is a basic right. If it is denied to you, then you can move the Supreme Court or the High Court. The right to social security and protection of the family. You all see that nobody can infringe your social security, and nobody can harm the protection of your family. Just see, you also have the right to self-defense. If there is a reasonable danger to your life, a person is causing danger to your life, then you can take away that person's life in defense of your person, to defend yourself. Or if a person is trying to rape a woman, that woman can take away the life of that person to save her modesty. Then right to sleep, I just talked about. Right to freedom, noise pollution, right to electricity, and so and so. All these rights have been recognized by the Constitution, by the Supreme Court or the High Courts under its various judgments. Then we come to Article 22. Article 22 says protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. So here said, no person who is arrested shall be detained in custody without being informed, as soon as may be, of the ground for such arrest. So the police has to tell you that why it's arresting you. It cannot arrest you without informing you about the reasons. Nor shall he be denied the right to consult and to be defended by a legal practitioner of his choice. The police cannot say that we'll let you be defended by so and so advocate only, or we'll not let you defend by any advocate. You have got this fundamental right under Article 22. Then another right is that you have to be produced before the magistrate. This is very important to be learned by all of us. That suppose a person has been arrested by the police today, then he has to be produced before the magistrate within 24 hours of his arrest, excluding the time necessary for journey to reach. This is negligible in generally in the cases. So you have to be produced before the magistrate, who may decide to grant you the bail or not, or to send you to the judicial custody. By the judicial custody, we mean that you will not be under the investigation of the police at that time. And then this is also subject to certain exceptions, like someone is alien or enemy, preventive detention is also there. So that can be up to maximum 3 months. For that also, that committees to be constituted, so and so. Then comes under Article 23. Prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor. You must be knowing about this trafficking of human beings. Certain persons, child are stolen and they are sent to brothels and so. So it says traffic in human beings and beggar and other similar forms of forced labor are prohibited. And any contravention of this provision shall be an offence punishable in accordance with law. Then further comes Article 24. 24 is prohibition of employment of children in factories. No child below the age of 14 years shall be employed to work in any factory or mine or engage in any other hazardous employment. So here 2-3 things are to be seen, that that child is below the age of 14 years. So here we are not talking about minor or major. Major you become after the age of 18 years. And here you cannot, this child cannot be employed in hazardous employment, factory and mines. Then comes, if they any kind of violation, and I inform you, if you find that certain children have been kept in these factories who are below the age of 14, then you may move the court for the protection of those children, because they may not move the court themselves and they have been confined inside those factories. We all hear all these news in Delhi also. And then comes Article 25, freedom of conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of religion. I think it needs no elaboration. It said that subject to public order, morality and health. Here we find these exceptions are there, that it has to be under the public order, morality. So here morality has also been recognized by the Constitution of India. You see, though it's not defined, but it has been recognized and held. And to the other provisions of this part, all persons are equally entitled. All persons are equally entitled. So you cannot take this right from the foreigners even, to freedom of conscience and the right freely to profess, practice and propagate religion. And then comes Article 26. This provides you freedom to manage religious affairs subject to public order, morality and health. Every religious denomination or any section thereof shall have the right to establish and maintain institutions for religious and charitable purpose. So today, if a state is stopping you from establishing any kind of charitable trust, you can move the court. And to manage its own affairs in the matters of religion, state cannot interfere into. To own and acquire movable and immovable property for the purpose of carrying on your religious affairs, yes, you can move the court against the state. And then to administer such property in accordance with the law. Further, we see Article 27, freedom as to payment of taxes for promotion of any particular religion. So the court, the state cannot force you to pay taxes for the promotion of a particular religion. So this is your right to say no for that, and you can move the court for that. Then Article 28, freedom as to attendance at religious instruction or religious worship in certain educational institutional. So educational institution जो state से admission है उसमें ये right may not be possible, but otherwise no religious instruction shall be provided in any educational institution wholly maintained out of state funds. So if it is totally maintained by the state funds, it cannot be provided. But if nothing to clause 1 shall apply to an educational institution which is administered by the state, but has been established under any endowment or trust which requires that religious instruction shall be imparted in such institution. किसी ने अपने लिए बनवाया है स्टेट के थ्रू, endowment दिया है, तो वो अपना ये provision में exception हो सकता है. Then comes Article 29, protection of interest of minorities. This comes under cultural and educational rights. As I talked about this cultural rights, educational rights. So you see that any section of the citizens residing in the territory of India, so it is for the citizens only, or any part thereof having a distinct language, script or culture of its own shall have the right to conserve the same. So you have a particular kind of culture, then you have the right to conserve the same, but subject to the rights of other persons. So you cannot simply say that I have this kind of culture of doing offering this बलि देने का मेरे यहाँ पर है तो मैं जाकर के शेर की बलि दूंगा, तो आप शेर की बलि तो नहीं दे सकते. This is subject to the rights of to the provisions of other statutes also. Then Article 30, which says right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. You all know that these kinds of educational institutions like colleges and schools are established by the minorities in India. They have been specially provided these kinds of rights. All minorities, whether based on religion or language. So here by minority we do not know, we don't say simply those because of religion only, but on the basis of language also, shall have the right to establish and administer educational institution of their choice. Then next one is Article 31A. This is just saving of laws. We'll move to this Article 32. This is remedies against the infringement of fundamental rights. So this itself is a fundamental right. Article 32 only, but not 226. So, but you have right to approach the High Court under Article 226. High Court is having wider powers. Like it can, this writ can be issued by the High Court under Article 226 to any person even, including the state. And under Article 226, you can not only move for protection of your fundamental rights, but for other kinds of rights also, like statutory rights. But in Article 32, you can approach the Supreme Court only to protect your fundamental rights against the state. So here, but I tell you the practical aspect, if you approach the Supreme Court would say that though you have the right, but still you should have exercised this right before the High Court. You should have filed the writ petition before the High Court. Had the High Court refused, or if you are having any kind of grievance against the High Court decision, then come to us. It's just to distribute the load which is there in the Supreme Court. So this Article 32 says the remedies for enforcement of rights conferred by this Act. The right to move the Supreme Court. Now this language is very important. The right to move the Supreme Court. by appropriate proceedings for the enforcement of the rights conferred by this part. Part means part 3 is guaranteed. So there is a guarantee. See, I just said that if there is no duty or there is no mechanism for enforcement of rights, then these rights have no meaning. They would be just paper rights. That's why the maker of the constitution provided this Article 32, which cannot be taken away by anyone. So here, what are the rights? The Supreme Court shall have power to issue directions or orders or writs, including writs in the nature of habeas corpus, certiorari, mandamus, prohibition, quo warranto. So habeas corpus means the writ is used to enforce the fundamental right of individual liberty against unlawful detention. Suppose you find that some person has been illegally detained by the police and he has not been produced by the police before the magistrate within 24 hours. Then you can move a petition writ of habeas corpus before the High Court or the Supreme Court by saying that police has not produced before the person before the magistrate. Hence, the police be directed to produce the person before the court. And accordingly, the writ is issued and the police has to produce the body of that person. Habeas corpus means produce the body. And there is a writ of certiorari. This writ is issued by the court higher in the authority to a lower court. Like the High Court will issue this writ to the trial courts in Delhi or to tribunals like consumer protection or like some other CAT, Central Administrative Tribunal, etc., ordering them either to transfer a case pending before them to itself or quash their order in a case. Suppose you have got some grievance and you file a petition before the you are a government employee and you file the petition before the Central Administrative Tribunal that passed order with which you are having grievance. So you move a petition before the High Court under Article 226 seeking issuance of writ of certiorari by which the High Court can quash that order. Then is the mandamus, writ of mandamus. This writ is issued by the court to order the public official who has failed to perform his duty or refused to do his duty to resume his work. So you seek the direction to that public authority. Is that this public officer is not performing his duty, so kindly issue the writ. And then there is a quo warranto. Throughout this writ, through this writ, what we seek is that this person has been wrongly appointed to the particular office. So the court seeks the explanation by which authority you have been appointed to this office. And then last one is coming the writ of prohibition. Here the court that is higher in position issues a prohibition writ against a court that is lower in position to prevent the latter from exceeding its jurisdiction or usurping a jurisdiction that is. Now let me explain it. What happens? Suppose you find that that a complaint has been lodged in a district forum and that district forum is not having pecuniary jurisdiction. Then you may say that since this, but this district forum is proceeding with that case, then you may approach the High Court by saying that district forum is exceeding its jurisdiction, which is not vested in it. Hence, the kindly issue the writ against that proceedings with my case. So with this, let me just summarize what we have gone through because the time is ending, though we have lots of things to discuss. Here I am confining only to the fundamental rights today and about the enforcement. We are not going to how to enforce your statutory rights and other kinds of rights like how to get the bail or when you get arrested then what you have to do or how to file a complaint for protection of domestic violence or to seek maintenance against your husband or how the parents can seek maintenance from their children or how can the children can seek maintenance from its parents. There's so many other kinds of rights are there. How can a person approach the court to seek equal remuneration, like if some employees providing a lesser remuneration to a lady, then she may seek same kind of remuneration. So many rights are there. So here today we have discussed what is the meaning of right. So then what kind of types of rights are there, and then who can grant or take away the rights, and then can rights be relinquished, can these rights be waived off by you, and then how to enforce your fundamental rights, how to enforce your contractual rights by filing the civil suits or by approaching the arbitral tribunals or by forming the arbitral tribunals, and like statutory rights by filing the consumer, approaching the consumer commission or the labor court or the industrial tribunals like electricity court, so and so are there. And then we also discussed, can someone else seek protection of your rights? Yes, In case you are belonging to a weaker section of the society, you cannot go for the protection of your own rights, or you have been illegally detained, or you are like children, or like you are any of, so there are some certain kind of species like animals and forests, they cannot protect their rights, and we have acknowledged their rights also. You cannot commit cruelty to the animals also. So there is protection against the cruelty to the animals also. And then we discuss what is the fundamental. Fundamental are those basic rights which cannot be do away with in general situations. But out of those fundamental rights, there are Article 20 and 21 which cannot be taken away by the state under in any situation, even those emergencies also. And then we also discuss about the fundamental rights in our ancient India. We also discuss about certain other countries where those rights were recognized later on. With that, I thank you all to provide me this great opportunity of sharing my thoughts with you and to interact with the youth. And I welcome any kind of question on this topic from my younger brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for taking this knowledgeable session.
I know
So,
this, बहुत समय लगता है सब कुछ समझने के लिए, बहुत डिटेल में स्टडी होनी चाहिए, but today we just had the glimpse. For only for Article 21 we had a class discussions going on for whole month. एक आर्टिकल को समझने के लिए काफी समय लगता है, पर यहाँ हम थोड़ा सा उसके बारे में जान लिए हैं आज. Yes, please.
okay, sir, we have doubts also.
Please.
Yeah, there is a question from Nishtha. If an employer denies us our salary or stipend after the completion of the job, what rights do we have?
See, there are several kinds of situations there. Suppose that कोई laborer है वहाँ पर और उस laborer को कोई equal remuneration नहीं दे रहे हैं, then there are labor courts. And in fact, you can approach your labor forum associations also. For laborers, there are associations, you can approach them, they will file on your behalf. So if you are not granted promotion, suppose you are in the government employment, then, or you are not provided equal pay, then this is your fundamental right, which is to be protected by the state. तो उसके लिए आप जाएंगे कोर्ट के पास में. तो इसके लिए अलग से प्रोविजन बनाया गया, CAT बनाई गई है, सेंट्रल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ट्रिब्यूनल, जो कि इंडिया गेट के पास में है. तो वहां जाकर के आप कहते हैं कि मुझे प्रमोशन नहीं दिया जा रहा है, या मुझे इक्वल पे नहीं दिया जा रहा है, या फिर मुझे समझिए सर्टेन काइंड्स ऑफ फैसिलिटीज नहीं दी जा रही हैं. फॉर दैट यू अप्रोच. सो डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ रेमेडीज आर प्रोवाइडेड फॉर डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ पर्संस. ठीक है. इंडस्ट्रियल कोई मुद्दे हैं तो उसके लिए इंडस्ट्रियल कोर्ट्स भी हैं.
Okay, sir. Okay. And one more question.
Please.
Just a second. The use of racist words is prohibited, like the writing of the name Butcher, Jar, Brahmin, etc. on the vehicles. Is it the text of Article 18 or any other?
Sorry, I didn't get you. This use of word race.
Racist.
Racist words cannot be used. Yes, this is your fundamental right. I just explained to you that state cannot discriminate any person on the ground of race, etc. And then you have certain other rights. Like I tell you, just like you know that you cannot humiliate any person. There are many rights under this. It's a broader concept actually. Like under the right of freedom of speech and expression, you cannot defame any other person, right? आप डिफेम नहीं कर सकते किसी. यू कैन बी सूड फॉर डिफेमेशन. आप किसी को भला बुरा नहीं कह सकते हैं, और किसी भी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल डिग्निटरी के खिलाफ में उल्टी सीधी अनल बातें नहीं कह सकते. इफ यू कैन नॉट सब्सटेंशिएट देम, लाइक राइट ऑफ मीडिया इज देयर, बट राइट मीडिया कैन नॉट एक्सरसाइज दैट काइंड ऑफ राइट. कुछ भी कहें, अनसब्सटेंशिएटेड बात कुछ भी कहें. अभी आपको पता होगा कि वन जर्नलिस्ट हैज बीन अरेस्टेड रिसेंटली फॉर showing a certain part of the clip against one politician of this country, and another journalist was also arrested for so many reasons which I do not want to go into the detail. तो वो सारे reasons हैं कि आप किसी को फॉर एग्जाम्पल कि SCs के को भी ह्यूमिलेट नहीं कर सकते पब्लिक में. दे हैव गॉट द प्रोटेक्शन. सो उसके लिए भी आपको अरेस्ट होती है. इनफैक्ट उसमें तो बेल होना भी बड़ा मुश्किल होता है. ठीक है. तो हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में एक आ गया कि स्टेट विल नॉट डिस्क्रिमिनेट यू, एज वेल एज देयर स्टैट्यूटरी राइट्स आल्सो, सिविल राइट्स आल्सो. सो अगर कोई आपको डिफेम कर रहा है, देन यू मे फाइल सिविल सूट अंडर द लॉ ऑफ टॉर्ट्स आल्सो. लाइबल, द प्रोविजन ऑफ लाइबल इज देयर. इफ यू कमिट द लाइबल, So many things are there. Then contempt of court is also there. These are all restrictions on your freedom of speech and expression. Actually, you can criticize the court, but you cannot commit the contempt of court. So criminal contempt of court, civil contempt of court are different things. Civil contempt क्या होती है, criminal contempt क्या होती है, पर आप वो भी आपके पास restrictions है. Criminal contempt of court में आप कोर्ट के खिलाफ में कुछ भी उल्टा सीधा नहीं बोल सकते. अब किसी कोर्ट ने जज ने कोई जजमेंट दिया है तो आप उसके खिलाफ पर्सनल प्रोपेगेंडा शुरू नहीं कर सकते हैं कि इन्होंने ऐसा क्यों किया, ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए था. ये सब बहुत बड़े-बड़े डिस्कशंस के मुद्दे हैं, बट जस्ट टू सेटिस्फाई योर क्वेरी, दिस इज द आंसर.
Yeah, sir, it is under Article 18, na?
Yes, you get this right to freedom, 19, right to freedom and speech and expression, but this is subject to all these also. Abolition of title is there, yes. No, abolition of title is there. Untouchability under Article 17, abolition of untouchability. तो ये सब cumulation होता है काफी चीजों को मिलाकर के हम एक चीज में एक person is made of several things. Like I have my eyes, ears, nose, hair, and my lips, and then other certain parts of my body, hands. So then all these parts make me a complete human being. Similarly, sometimes a particular kind of right may fall under distinct heads also. You may have, in fact, certain rights which will come under the Constitution of India, which may come under certain statute also, right? Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so
Excuse
much,
me.
sir. We are
Hello,
done with the.
Miss Astha, may I ask this question because this is my question
Okay.
again? Yeah. So, sir, ये question मेरा इस type से था. Sir, ये question इस type से था कि जैसे कि
You guys
vehicle.
put the question in the chat box. You can open your mics.
सर मेरा जो क्वेश्चन था वो इस टाइप से था कि व्हीकल्स पर जो ये नेम लिखे आते हैं जाति सूचक टाइप के, जैसे जाट गुर्जर और ये, तो इन चीज के लिए दिल्ली सरकार ने वो चीज करी थी कि इन पर ऐसे चीज नहीं लिख सकते, तो वो क्या आर्टिकल 18 के अंदर आएगा मेरे प्रोहिबिटेड करने के लिए, या फिर ये एक अलग पीनल मतलब जो अपराध की उसमें आता है?
I got your point. This is very good question. Article 18 says abolition of titles. Let me read it to you. No title not being a military or academic distinction shall be conferred by the state. यहाँ पर जो फंडामेंटल राइट जो होते हैं वो स्टेट के अगेंस्ट में होते हैं. तो आर्टिकल 18 तो तब लगेगा कि जब किसी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने किसी की गाड़ी पर लिख दिया हो पीछे कोई भी जाति सूचक शब्द या किसी प्रकार का और कोई टाइटल लिख दिया हो, तब तो वो उसके प्रोटेक्शन में आएगा. पर ये तो एक अलग स्टैट्यूटरी प्रोविजन है कि आप इस तरह के जाति सूचक शब्द नहीं लगाइए, जस्ट टू एडमिनिस्टर द स्टेट. लाइक आपसे और भी बहुत तरह के लॉज बनाए जाते हैं फॉर द वेलफेयर ऑफ द सोसाइटी, टू मेंटेन द पीस इन द सोसाइटी, or to avoid any kind of conflict, or to avoid any kind of supremacy among the these citizens. ये इस तरह का है, ये एक स्टैट्यूटरी है, बट दिस इज नॉट ए कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट. ठीक है, वो जो आप कह रहे हैं कि पीछे लिख देता है कोई जैन साहब लिख रहा है, कोई उसके पीछे शर्मा जी वर्मा जी लिख रहे हैं, जाट गुजर लिख रहे हैं, जो भी लिख रहे हैं वो एक उनका पर्सनल काम है. वो यू कैन नॉट इन्फोर्स दैट राइट अगेंस्ट दैट पर्सन अंडर एज ए फंडामेंटल राइट. फंडामेंtal rights are not available against the fellow citizens. Yes, please.
Yes, sir, I got your point. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much,
Sir.
sir.
Sir, one more question.
Please.
Yes, sir. My question.
Has been removed for the meeting.
Uh,
Yes, please.
I think, sir, we are done with the doubts.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much,
carefully. That's why you're having doubts.
Yeah.
We may
Okay.
have a separate discussions on a particular aspect that will also require 2 or 3 hour sessions, and then we may have detailed questions as the session in that session.
So thank you so much, sir. Now I would like invite the Bruiser of the Society, Professor Suman Kumar, sir.
Yes, Astha, thank you very much. And I must thank the speaker of today who has given very detailed information to the students. And that too in a very fast manner because the time constant was there. And you have tried to cover everything with examples from ancient Indian mythology to current examples also. So I am very much sure that the students will be enlightened with your deliberations. And they will be benefiting and they will use it in future also. Thank you very much, and thank you to Megha also who has organized this program, and you all the students and participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now I would like to invite our convener, Dr. Megha ma'am, to present the vote of thanks.
This was our first program for the academic session, organized by NSS, academic session 2022-23. And sir, you brought out very beautifully the fundamental rights and giving the backdrop of it, Hindu Succession Act, Indian Penal Code, and we really understood. Of course, we've heard about it. We've studied them somewhere. But the way you explain the fundamental rights to us, legal rights, also as principal sir also had mentioned about the moral duties, the relationship that you brought about between duties and rights, and sometimes the rights can be waived off in particular situations, and also so how you linked today's law to the Dwapar Yuga and the Treta Yuga, to somewhere find the origin of law and how it might have originated. It was a very beautiful discussion, sir. Very detailed and useful, and I'm sure it will help us all in our day-to-day lives somewhere. So it's like really important for us. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart to have spared your valuable time to apprise our students and help us through the fundamental rights, a very basic thing that we all must have an understanding on. uh, Also, I would like to thank our principal, sir, for being ever so supportive and motivating us through our NSS journey. And I would also like to mention our new NSS team members, their efforts. Manan, Astha in particular, I'll get to know more of you as we proceed through the year. We had a wonderful beginning, a wonderful session to start with students, and may we have a very fruitful year ahead. With these words, I would like to thank Praveen Kumar Jain, sir. Suman, sir, thank you so much for being there for us, for motivating us. Um, yeah, with that, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, thank you so much, all of you. Now it's the end of the today's program. Stay safe, stay healthy, and follow the COVID protocols. Thank you, everyone, for becoming the part of this. Now, you guys can leave the meeting also.